With this video, we want to continue to look at the review problems for image 1118. Number 7 says a satisfactory hand radiograph is taken using 2 MAS 60 kVp using a 400 speed image receptor. What technique should be used with a 100 speed image receptor? So we're looking at 2 MAS using a 400 speed image receptor. The kV is not a factor in this problem. And then we want to ask what MAS to use with a 100 speed image receptor. So if we use our total receptor exposure equation, the only factors we need to worry about are the MAS and the speed, and those are both in the numerator. So we would set it up like this: 2 MAS times 400 speed equals what MAS at 100 speed, and solve for x. So x would equal 100. Excuse me, divide both sides by 100. 2 times 400 divided by 100. And that will give us 8. And so the answer would be 8 MAS at the 60 kVp, or answer number A, or letter A. Number 8 says, which of the following sets of technique factors would result in the greatest receptor exposure? And so if we look at these, we can multiply each of these out using the equation again. So 10 MAS times 61, we'll have to set a kV factor for these. So the 61 kV factor would be 1. The 70 kV factor is a 15% increase from 61, and so that would be a kV factor of 2. Now the tricky part is that 80 is an increase of 15% from 70, and so 2 times 2 is 4, and so the kV factor for 80 is going to be 4, because it's a 15% jump from 61. And then the 70 kV is going to be 2 again. So we have 10 times 1 for the first one, divided by 40, and 40 again for the SIDs, and that calculates out to be 0.006. B is going to be 8 times 2 divided by 60 divided by 60, and that gives you 0.004. C is going to be 6 times 4 divided by 60 divided by 60, and that gives you 0.006. And then D is going to be 8 times 2 divided by 40, which gives you 0.01, which is the highest of these, and so D is the answer. A technique of 80 kV at 12 MAS and 8:1 grid is used for a lateral skull radiograph. Which of the following technique settings would provide increased contrast but keep the same receptor exposure? So to increase contrast, we can do one of two things. One is we can go down in kV. None of our answers go down in kVp, however. So another thing we can do to increase contrast is to increase the grid ratio. And a higher grid ratio would be represented by 16:1 grid, or 16:1 grid here. Now, 16:1 grid at 12 MAS would not give the same receptor exposure, and so to calculate this out, you would use the MAS 12 MAS using an 8:1 grid over 4 equals what MAS using a 16:1 grid, and the grid conversion factor is 6, and so X would be equal to 6 times 12 divided by 4, and that ends up being 18 MAS down here, letter D.